Okay. Um, sorry.
We're going to get our slides up and start giving you some information. Um, and here in Oregon, it's super chilly too. I don't know what's chilly for you all, but we had like 20 degrees in freezing fog this morning. So that's Oregon chilly for us for sure. All right, Yuli, take it away.
Perfect. All right. So here's our agenda for today. We'll start by sharing a little bit about who Talent Rewire is, some of the workforce challenges and opportunity we've been able to identify that guide our programming. Um, George will guide us through the Action Lab experience, program components, and we'll share a little bit more about employer expectations and time commitment for this 10 months and some next steps for on how people can participate. We'll also leave some generous time at the end of the call, towards the end of the call, for a Q&A so that we can have engaging conversation and hopefully answer any questions you all have. We would like to start by acknowledging that this is a partnership. This work is being done in partnership with Unite LA and San Diego Workforce Partnership, two wonderful organizations with whom we've had the opportunity to work in the past by bringing similar programming through the region, and we're very excited to be working with again. Talent Rewire is an initiative of FSG, which is a social impact consulting firm. Our team at Talent Rewire is focused on helping employers rethink the way that they acquire, retain, and advance talent, and in creating economic mobility for individuals in frontline positions. Our three-pronged approach focuses on innovating new research tools and experiences to help employers transform their talent systems, scaling learning to build capacity for the broader workforce system, and by modeling equity and frontline center systems change. Um, all the work that we do is rooted in our research tools. And as part of that, I would like to highlight two of the most recent papers, How Change Happens and What Good Looks Like. We also have the Opportunity Navigator, which is a tool that helps employers understand best practices in opportunity employment, how they might work with your company, and which resources are right for each employer. This is just to give you an idea of companies we have worked with in the past. And as you can see, they all vary in size and industry. Next, I'll talk a little bit about the challenges and opportunities we've been able to identify in the workforce, which help guide our program design for the Action Lab experience. From the employee perspective, we know that approximately 50 million Americans work in hourly low wage jobs. Of those, nearly 2/3 are women, just over 40% identify as people of color, 25% live at or below the poverty line, and 17% are immigrants. We also know that a greater majority of those individuals want to be promoted, but very few actually advance into corporate roles. And we also know that frontline employees report the lowest overall feeling of inclusion and belonging in the workplace. From an employer's perspective, a survey of over 1,300 C-suite level executives have identified a failure to attract and retain talent um, as the biggest organizational risk in 2023 and in the decade to come. Turnover rates ranging from 65 to 85% can result in an average of $3,500 to replace in cost to replace an hourly employee, and $12,000 to replace an entry level employee. Companies that are operating in a rapidly changing environment, shaped by the ongoing impact of COVID-19, high turnover rate, a tight employment market, rising inflation, and technology changes, and the risk of recession. The opportunity, we hope that the opportunity, part of the opportunity here is that by bringing together a cohort of employers who are committed to intentionally disrupt their current talent systems and practices in service of addressing their medium to long-term talent and business needs, while also increasing the opportunity for their frontline and entry-level workforce to build careers and economic mobility. The Californian Action Lab, I'm sorry, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague George to talk a little bit about the Californian Action Lab experience.
Thank you, Yuli. Yeah, we're really excited about this because the cohort model allows for, learning together, learning from one another. And so we really try to create a co-learning environment. And, we will talk about, like in this program, we'll talk about power and we'll talk about expertise. And while we are convening and we are bringing research and all of that to the table in this program, I think what I love about this program is that it sets it up that you all are the experts in your experience. And if we dig even deeper than that, the frontline members of your organization, they are the experts on their experience. And so we will rely heavily on like sort of mining what your experience is and what their experience is to come together to sort of create some options and some pathways forward. And so that ties into the first bullet point here, which is that what we're hoping for is that you will innovate some new strategy that's grounded in your experience as someone working in your organization and that of other employees, specifically the front line at your organization, to try to come up with some new ideas that we will help seed with you, but ways to improve your talent practices in a more equitable way, really highlighting the voice of those that need to be heard the most, we believe. We had a question in a different call of, is our program a pilot program? And the answer is no. We've done this before, but what you're going to be doing is creating a pilot. So over the course of 10 months, we will work with you and you will work with what we're calling TAPs, technical assistance providers, which I'll tell you about more in a second, to take what you're learning from the research, from your employees, from your own experiences, from conversations with us, conversations with one another, to come up with a pilot project that you will implement and you will test and see if it works to, increase retention, increase sense of belonging, increase psychological safety for the folks who need it the most, which as Yuli just said, there's a people impact and there's also that business impact. And that's something that we'll really hit on in the 10 months that we are together. We believe that this is a starting point for your engagement with frontline talent and with employees in terms of bringing their voice in the conversation. Chances are you all are already doing something like that. It could be a survey, it could be focus groups. We want to take the great work you're already doing and push it forward with best practices. So the engagement with your employees in the front line can be ongoing, so it can be sustainable. And we think that's really, really important. It's easy to do something once, it's hard to do something that's sustainable. And we also are trying to create a community here. And you all, as part of this program, if you sign up for this program, you will be part of a growing community from around the country of folks that are rewiring their talent practices with a more equitable bent to it. And so we're glad you're here taking this step to be part of the community, and hopefully we'll get to know you more as we go along. Next slide, please. So there are three major components of the program over the 10 months. Activate and create are in person. That's something that's really important. We'll get to that in a second. Activate, we're going to be building the case with you for why employee voice should be prioritized. And by building the case with you, that gives you the language and the tools to go back to a supervisor, go back to your place of employment, and really make the case that your company should invest the capacity in securing employee voice. Because we believe that if employers can address the talent and business concerns that they're facing, or your region is facing, which there will be opportunities for collaboration for sure, and do it with employee voice being a part of it, having the opinions of your employees, that it'll be more sustainable, like I said earlier. So that'll be in March, 2 days in person, and that'll be in San Diego. Elevate is really speaking to the main virtual portion, and that's where the TAPs, the technical assistance providers, will be a part of it. And we will have a 2 or 3 hour session all together that you'll be meeting monthly, and we'll go more into that in a second. But this is where we really hone in on some ideas that you might have for these talent changes that you want to make, and doing that by including employee voice. So you'll be getting help from us and from the TAPs during this period over the summer and our online session in how to engage employees, how to make it sustainable, how to really understand the data, and then how to turn all of that and turn it into an idea that could be a potential pilot. And then we'll come back together in LA in September, I believe, for Create. And this is where you'll bring all of that information. You'll bring your 2 or 3 ideas for what your pilot practice might be, and we will workshop it together. We'll bring more best practices together, more knowledge together, and really work to make sure that you leave this with a solid idea and solid action steps moving forward. One thing that I did not highlight that I want to make sure I highlight is that there will be frontline employees, not of your organizations, but in general, advisors that will be a part of this. And Yuli is going to talk about that more, but we are going to have that frontline voice in the room to serve as advisors, to serve as people that can really help you think about maybe how things are working in your organization in a different way. And also really what we want to do and what we believe is important is helping you and your organization change mindsets around the role of frontline folks in your organization. And so then in Create, you'll have all of this information, and you'll again leave with one specific pilot idea with an implementation strategy. And then we will come back together in December in an online forum called Educate, where you'll be sharing out how things have been going and what you hope to do moving past December, and what you need from this community moving forward. Next slide, please. So I kind of walked you through the timeline already, but this is a little bit more granular. And you can see it here that we'll be working on best practices and tools in person at Activate in early March. We will be the last week of June getting together online for Elevate, even though you will be having touch points with your TAPs along the way each month. In September, we'll Create, and then by the middle of December, you will have had an implemented idea, or an idea that you've tried to implement, that we will then workshop and make sure we can help you move forward. Is there anything, Yuli or Scotty, about the timeline or about the movement of this program that you want to mention that I might have missed?
No, I think you did a very good job at covering it.
Okay, great. So, Scotty, were you gonna chime in? Okay, good to see your face though. All right, so the program components, we have some besides our staff, our team, helping you along the way and facilitating. Yuli and I will be there in California. Scotty won't be joining us, but we'll have a couple of other folks with us. We have some other program components. So if you can go to the next slide, Yuli, that'd be great. As I was mentioning, we have technical assistance providers, and Scotty has been working super hard on getting this part of the program up and running. And it's really exciting because the technical assistance providers will be coming from your region, and they will serve as, in a way, not coaching by the definition of what coaching is in the field, but they'll be helping you along the way. And so you can see what they will be providing here. And that'll be happening in once a month conversations with them. That 2 to 3 hour online forum that we talked about. And they'll be having sessions with us, just the technical assistance providers and us, so they can workshop with us if there are trends, if there are things that they're having trouble with working out with you. But it's their job to really make sure you get what you need. So we had a question in the last one about what if my problem is specifically that I want to solve is specifically around ESL? Then we will work with our partners in the region and the technical assistance providers to make sure that there is a connection between the advice and the work that they're doing with you and your specific needs around ESL or whatever it might be. So we will work as a team to provide you with the resources. Anything you want to add, Scotty? Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep it rolling. Now, this is where Yuli really shines. Yuli leads our frontline work, and so I'm excited for Yuli to tell you about this component.
I don't think it shine. The frontline employees shine, but this is a big another component to our program, and is we would truly believe in incorporating the voices of frontline employees into our experiences. The way there's a couple of ways in which our team does this. One is that we have a frontline employee council, which is a permanent body of a group of individuals who advises our team on everything from programming to curriculum design, event design, strategy, and research. These are folks who have experience in frontline positions, current or past. And then the second way, which is the way in which our employers most directly experience it, is by bringing in the voices of local frontline employees. And the way that we do this is that we partner with workforce organizations to recruit from their alumni, and they join us during the first day of our in-person event. And we work on a lot of they bring in their voice and their lived experience, I'm sorry, and share it with our participating employers. This is something that other employers in past labs have found very helpful as they go on to design pilots, and as they think through how they may go back into their companies and include the voices of their frontline into their ongoing efforts to develop a pilot, or just to address their needs and pain points. The folks that are coming in will be recruited again with through a partnership with the local workforce organizations, and these individuals are actually compensated for the time. And the reason why we bring external rather than asking employers to bring people from their own companies is because we want to address some of those power dynamics in the room. And by bringing folks who are not part of these companies, also just, I think, enables a more authentic and full participation, whereas if there might have been some hesitation from people to provide honest and direct feedback if they were speaking to their superiors and whatnot. I think that's it. George, feel free to add anything I might have missed.
Yeah, that's great. This tends to be, one of the differentiators in our program. It's something we're really proud of, and we're, like Yuli said, even though Yuli does shine in the work that Yuli does, it really is the voices of the front line and that interaction in the cohort that is really, really powerful and really, I would say, projects things forward in a quick way. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. But yeah, go ahead and move it forward. So this is where the sort of rubber meets the road for you all, and where you need to think, really strategically about it, and about, is this program a good fit for you? And we think that because you're here, it is a good fit and you have good readiness for it. But there is a time commitment and there are expectations, and so we just want to run through those with you so we can be on the same page and be clear. So next slide, please. Thank you. So this is open to companies in any sector, which is really, really important. But there are some things that we feel like we need so the whole cohort can move forward together. And that is one, that there's a public commitment to advancing equity. It's not something that's in the shadows. It's something that is part of the work you do, and maybe even something that you're willing to shout from the rooftops. You don't have to shout it from the rooftops, but it's really, really important to the work that we are doing. That you can access some sort of frontline data or the voices of frontline folks, so we don't need to analyze it, so you can analyze it and identify trends. It's also important at this point that all of your data is proprietary to you. You don't need to share any data with anybody in this program, but coming up with some trends and some ideas and some evidence for how or why you might want to do a certain pilot project is going to be helpful. Really committing to being in person and at the online forums, really participating in all of these sections. We have run these before we were as clear with these expectations, where some folks would kind of drop in and out. That really impacts not just you or us, but the whole cohort. And so we ask that you make sure you can commit and your team can commit to the time. And then this is also really important, involving an executive sponsor who has decision-making authority. So getting someone who might be close to the top, who signs off on this and says, yeah, like, I believe in this and I'm going to support it. Past cohorts have included, human resource leaders, DEIB leaders, operations leaders, employee experience leaders, talent acquisition leaders. And we feel like there's like a dream team, 2 to 4 people is about what a team should be coming to this program. An ideal team is someone kind of at the higher level, C-suite, maybe someone that's at the manager level or director level, like HR, operations, something like that. And then if it's possible to bring a frontline supervisor as part of the team, we think that can be really powerful. Having those 3 levels working in conjunction to create a different future can be really, really powerful. That's not required. That's just our dreams. Next slide. Thank you. So here's what it looks like. It's 10 months, 2 in-person convenings, which are two days with really good food. We know how to have good food and good drinks for sure. There'll be monthly technical assistance calls from 30 minutes to an hour, and then 2 virtual convenings for no more than 3 hours. And one will be in June, one will be in December. And then there's optional internal strategy and alignment meetings. So the idea is that between sections of our program, you'll be working internally to move things forward and be prepared for your TAPS calls and be prepared for the next session. And we don't know how much time that'll take for you, but we think it'll take about 30 minutes to an hour to have some sort of alignment meetings, every once in a while, so you can move everything forward. So I want to skip to the bottom point here, and an MOU is required. It's not a legal document and it is flexible, but an MOU will lay out everything that we've been talking about here, just so you, your team, your executive sponsor can all be on the same page with what we are expecting and what you're signing up for. And that involves, being available for all sessions, working with the TAPS provider, the TAPS, and to pilot and implement one idea between the end of Create and Educate in the fall to try to get things rolling. So for next steps, we think it's really important for you to just confirm understanding, maybe with us and with your team. Identify if this is viable for you all. Does it meet your needs or your aspirations? And we feel like this work can be super aspirational. And then also securing executive buy-in, making sure that there's someone at that top level who really supports this. Because we all have been in a situation where we've tried to pull something or push something up the ladder, and without buy-in, it's really hard to make it happen. So with that, I know we just threw a lot of information at you, and we can throw more at you. We want to open it up for Q&A. I'm sure there are questions, and our team here can provide some answers, and we can go from there.
Hi, George. This is Jasmine. Thanks so much for that information.
Hi.
Quick question. I'm thinking it might be useful for the group to hear of an example that you can share of a past pilot program that a company developed as a result of this cohort.
Yeah. Scotty, I was wondering, could you voice over the example you gave earlier?
Sure. Great question, Jasmine. I know a lot of folks are always looking for case studies. I think it's important to recognize that people who've engaged in our programs came in sitting where you are right now, wondering what can we do to improve the lives of our frontline employees, and what can we do to increase our opportunity as a business for higher levels of retention. So there was an organization that we worked with, a company, Tyson Foods, out of Arkansas, and they have a manufacturing floor where lots of different languages were spoken. And what they found is with the many languages that were spoken, there were two impacts. One was that work on the floor was not quite as impactful and as efficient because of communication challenges. And then what they also heard from employees is that it was hard for them to engage and be involved in their community, from things as simple as going to the doctor to other kinds of community organizations and needs. And so what Tyson did is that as part of the work day, they brought English language tutors into the facility, and employees would get one-on-one English language support. And what they found was that there was business impact because it increased efficiency. There was a business impact because it increased retention. And that what employees also reported is that it allowed them to do things in their community that they hadn't been able to do before. So there were a number of impacts and implications that they hadn't necessarily counted on because of this particular pilot that they implemented. We also have pilots that aren't as that's a pretty intense, right? You're finding your organization to come in and provide one-on-one tutoring. Super important. There are also people who are going back and looking at rewriting job descriptions so that they are more easily accessible, rethinking their communication pathways for how they're sharing and recruiting for employment. So there are things along those lines as well. So some are just, internal mechanisms that they're using that are increasing retention, and some are I would say, deeper mechanisms for change.
Yeah, and one example of, we talked about the sustainability of getting employee voice, is we've had multiple companies start in one way or another, either affinity groups or employee resource groups, which have allowed for a lot of information to come out that did lead to change. Like one example is a service company it's a ski company in New Mexico that provides basic services for all the folks who need to eat and drink and all of that stuff as they come up to the mountain. They use ERGs to understand, employee resource groups to understand that the chefs or the food service providers being paid hourly and seasonally were moving on every year to a different job, and that was causing a decrease in quality of the food. It was leading to unhappiness and a sense of not being able to be promoted, not being able to move up. And so what they did is they decided to, from hearing from employees, to create like a salary scale for folks. Instead of them being cooks, they were chefs, and so folks were employed year round, and that led to a dramatic increase in the quality of the product that they were serving, and as well as kind of the sense of belonging, I think, of employees in general. And so they were really putting their money and their time where the employees were needing it. And so that's another example, but that came out of the resource groups.
Thank you, George. Another question that just came to me directly was just the definition of frontline workers, under the premise that this program is really focused primarily on frontline workers. I know there's a broad sort of definition to that. So if you could share a little bit more about what that encompasses.
I think we normally identified anyone who has direct access to sort of customers, or who are in those positions who have direct access to clients, but also indirect contact with coworkers. So it could be anything from a production line to a packaging and distribution. We've also had financial institutions who have tellers, which actually reminds me, just to give you another example of we had a financial institution who was one of our first cohorts. And to George's point earlier about being able to have access data, when they were looking at their data, were going through our process, they realized, they came up with a pilot that realized that one of the barriers to people accessing jobs was that they had a very high credit score requirement, and they decided to lower that within, obviously, the regulatory mandate. But through that, they were able to actually open access to employment to a lot of individuals. I believe they also changed their standards for drug testing, and other changes like that. So it really, it's most, I would say most industries have qualifying employees with under the umbrella of frontline.
Yeah, I think something that we tag on to help people understand frontline is also entry level positions. So I know we know that during the pandemic, the idea of frontline changed, and all of a sudden doctors were frontline. That's not exactly who we're targeting. We're targeting more the demographics that Yuli laid out earlier. And while some of the jobs may not be considered frontline, they might be considered entry level. Any other questions? Well, we are available. We'll hang out here. So if you have something that maybe you don't want to ask in front of the whole group, we'll be here for as long as you all need us. We put the link for signing up here. You'll also get a follow-up email that has information for next steps. And we're hoping to see as many of you as possible in March when we are down there. And we really look forward to. I think this is a really exciting opportunity because it's truly regional. I see you, Marion. Thank you. It's truly regional. It's not just one city and the suburbs. And I think this is a real opportunity for collaboration and working towards a different future, which for us is like the kind of work we love. So you're welcome, Jessica. Marion, you want to jump in?
Yes, I had an opportunity to go through Talent Rewire almost, was it before pre-COVID?
No, it was
Ulysses?
2020, Marion.
Yeah, okay, so that
It's
was
just at the
pre-COVID.
beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a wonderful experience. So I wanted to know, what are we going to add different? It sounds like some of the cohorts and having frontline and being in person. If we've already gone through this same process before and it was 2 of us on our team, is it okay to go through it again, or do you want some new people?
I think if we're happy to have you again, that's the short answer. The longer answer is that I think our program has changed a little bit in the last few years, and so I think you'll learn some new tricks as well. And if we take the idea of having a team of 2 to 4, and maybe it's 2 of you who are pretty familiar with this, who can kind of be the change agents, the leaders, and then 1 or 2 other people from your organization can come along too, I think that would be ideal.
All right. I like that.
All right.
Yeah, I think
Thank
that
you.
another thing that I will highlight is that when we were doing that program, it was what was initially supposed to be a 3-day gathering spread out over the course of maybe 2.5 months, I believe it was, Marian. And this was very much at the beginning of the pandemic. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of things that had not come up just yet.
Right.
So I think what you're going to find in this program is that it's going to encompass like a lot of the changes that have happened in the field over the last 3 years since the pandemic, which I think is very impactful, and workers are demanding different things or raising different issues. So I think you're going to see a lot of that incorporated into this program.
All right, thank you.
Another thing that I just wanted to quickly highlight is that I would recommend to just visit the link that we posted. It has some additional information also about the logistics. Like we were mentioning, this is it's LA and San Diego. So our kickoff event will be in San Diego. Our second event in person will be in Los Angeles. Right now we have all the logistic information for San Diego. So we've secured lodging for those coming from LA at a discounted rate. There's a link for accommodations and all those different things. As we get closer to the LA in-person event, we will publish those things. But that's all to say that we'll do our best to make sure that we get everyone an accessible a lodging rate, and that is the area in San Diego where we are doing the event is actually very close to the Amtrak stations that people take into the train, because that makes more sense, or things like that. Also helping people figure out parking and all these different things are very important. So I would just encourage everyone to take a look, just so that you have all the information you need to make a decision.
Yeah, and if questions come up, we're here for it. So we hope to have you all sign up and go from there. But please feel free to reach out to us or the partners that we identified before. And with that, have a good day. Hopefully you stay warmer than we are, and hopefully we'll see you again sometime soon. And hang on if you want to talk to us more. All right, thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
George, I'm going to hang back with some questions. I was late.
Okay. Well, feel free if, as people leave, if it's not too personal, then
Not personal at all. So I think I was almost 20 minutes late, so I apologize to all of you. I feel like I missed a pretty, probably some core components